Well, today is the big day that I'm opening up a broad coverage of the dictatorship bingo that I've been promising. Um, this is not the full meal deal. This is dictatorship bingo light. But I wanted to touch on some of the main topics. I don't have the capability yet to integrate graphics while I'm live streaming. I'm working on it. It would probably help. And if I could share oh, I might be able to share some of this actually. Well, we can experiment. This is mind blowing stuff. I believe not many people are touching on the big picture about how this, I suppose, you hear the term four dimensional chess game and things like that. I think it's true that there is really what I would characterize, and I'm sort of borrowing this and I'm kind of twisting the definition, but cold civil war has been a term that some have suggested. And I do think there's a civil war going on right now. It's just being fought very differently to any other epoch. Now, in other epochs, it's sometimes military or armies or things like that. Sometimes there's an economic dimension to it. But I mean, if you ultimately really look at it, the War of Independence that that allowed the formation of the United States, that was fought with musket fire and cannons and swords and bayonets and all those sorts of things, and cavalry, sabers. Very different to now, but there's still an economic factor to that. There's still political elements. I think we're living in a very different age. I think with the rise of AI and the definite changes in technology, particularly over the last 20 odd years, I think it dates back maybe even to the 80s or even the 70s. I mean, with the advent of the first PCs and when mainframes started to take a back seat eventually to, things like X architecture and things like that. Anyway, I'm digressing. I think we're in a technical age, but the way to describe it is that we have a multifaceted set of war zones. Now, I'm not going to cover everything in this session. I just want to introduce this, try and get some interest. I'm looking to see if anybody comments, and I might just quickly say welcome. And it's hopefully I can see it right. And if somebody wants to ping me, well, it appears to be there. So I'm guessing I can see the comments. Okay, so how am I going to do this? Do I just show you guys and share this and sort of talk a little bit? Sort of thinking about I've been thinking a lot about this, and I just figured rather than me just sitting doing nothing with nobody else out there, I'd throw this live just to see if anybody's out there and wants to comment. But I mean, eventually the idea is that I'm going to do a whole lot of takes and edit it and then have all the graphics, etc. Put it all together. So what's this all about? Well, first thing, let me get a drink. Sorry, this always happens. I get dry so quickly. I don't believe it. Hang on, let me just move this. Okay, so this is what I'm calling it. The preconditions and analysis, decline of US democracy and the rise of authoritarianism. So what I'm doing here, this is just the first of a series. There's actually, I'm kind of merging some things, but there's like 3 or 4 other main areas, and they all interlock. And rather than me try and explain everything in one hit, I figured I'd just do one piece of it. This piece is easier for me because it's an historical compare and contrast. So what am I doing? I've devised, and I've borrowed from a lot of people and put this together. So this is based on a lot of other people's work. I'm going to try and attribute it, but I mean, a lot of this is my own innovation without any help, really. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. What I'm doing is an historical case analysis. And what I've done is I've divided up I suppose you could call it preconditions or indicators into 25 separate areas. And then what I'm going to do down each lane is to analyze how democracies declined and fell into dictatorships. So why not just cover the core cases and then try and give an idea of how this all fits together? But maybe if I just talk about, and hey, this is my first time really trying to present this. So I'm trying to get some practice. Hopefully somebody's out there and can comment. Anyway, so Italy from 1922 to 1925. So the rise of Mussolini and the consolidation. Basically, the actual literal fascist dictatorship that was the first. So 1922, 1920 to 1925. Then, of course, but this is more looking at, okay, 2 steps back. I'm now beginning to see how I can couch this or make some sense of it. I'm not just looking at the whole dictatorship and what happened. I'm looking at what happened before, and then how did it transition? And I'm really not going much further than once it's transitioned. Although there are some exceptions where they're relevant, like ICE. I think it's like a proto-Gestapo, and so I'll talk about what happened in Germany then under Goering when he basically took over the Prussian police force. And we will go into great detail about how the Gestapo formed and how it developed. A lot of people, whenever they use some of these terms, think about what things were like, 1945 and much later. I'm thinking more like 1933, 34, 35, that sort of formative period, because that's what's happening now. These are like embryonic stages that we're going to compare and contrast. So Germany, 1930 to 1934, the Weimar collapse and the NSDAP consolidation. I'm not going to use that other word because apparently YouTube flags it. I don't really want to do that. And even saying other things, it's probably going to flag it. So Spain, very interesting one. And I'm going to go into a lot of detail on that. And a lot of people don't focus on this. I happen to study this a lot at one point. So it's something I'm very familiar with. And also it has something to do with George Orwell, which makes it interesting. If you've ever read Homage to Catalonia. Anyway, I'm digressing. Spain, 1936 to 1939. This was the Spanish Civil War. And so the republic that existed then transitioned via actual military, a military victory established what became the Franco dictatorship. Chile, 1970 to 1973. So Allende's overthrow and the Pinochet regime. Hungary, 2010 to the present, Viktor Orbán's systematic capture. These are all relevant in their own way, and they all have parallels with each other and in different ways. It's kind of like a kaleidoscope, but it's really interesting because a lot of these parallels have definite relevance to what's happening now. Turkey, 2003 to the present, Erdogan's authoritarian drift. Venezuela, 1999 to the present. So Chavez and Maduro's competitive authoritarianism. Poland, 2015 to the present. I always wonder how to say this. I've heard some people say different ways, but the PIS party is, I think, what I'm just going to call it. Capital P, small I, S, capital S, sorry. Party's institutional capture. Now, if you're looking at Turkey, Hungary, and Poland, these are more of a modern transition. Very different to Spain's about as brutal as it gets. Germany was a kind of transition through, what would you call it? Through, I was going to say parliamentary means, but, through a democratic set of laws. So it's a legalistic takeover. Very interesting how that happened. And then what transpired after that. Italy, very different animal. And then I thought I would touch on this as the final one, although I might open this up if other people have other ideas to, well, situations where you have had some sort of transition. But I try to focus on the ones that I think are the most relevant to what's happening in the United States right now. So Russia 2000 to the present. So Putin's managed democracy to authoritarianism. So what's this all about? It's about, well, how did this happen? How do democracies become dictatorships or authoritarian regimes? Sometimes they're interchangeable, sometimes not. I don't really want to get into a semantic debate about what these terms mean. I'm going to use them a lot more loosely without really nailing them down. And the reason for that is just for expediency. I just want to get what happened in each of these scenarios out historically and then look at how these parallel or don't parallel the United States. Or we can debate whether some do or don't, because I mean, some of these perspectives do have some subjective elements to it, which means, I have the opinion that, yeah, I think, I was going to say Erdoğan, but I think Viktor Orbán of Hungary is probably a better example of what's happening in the US. I think there's definite parallels there, for instance. I'm not going to delve into this right now. I'm just going to establish the structure and the framework. And then what I intend to do is to go through each piece. And then because this document's out of date and I've got a lot of other information, but I got to integrate it all, I figured, why don't I lay out the skeleton, the basic framework, so that people understand what that is, and then fill in the blanks and update them as we go. And so each section. Also, with this, there are several other interlocking perspectives that all have a bearing on this, and this has on them. And that way, this is how I'm going to give you what I call the dictatorship bingo. And I will give you a chess game, a funny kind of chess game. So it's kind of like a funny board and pieces. And yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a 3D chess, for 4D maybe, if you want to stretch it. And then the other dimension to this is that it's like part of this is, though, it's not just a chess game. It's kind of like you bolt on a Monopoly game, because there's a financial element. And if you know how Monopoly is played, it's buying and selling properties or something, and so the idea of how would we put it? Technofeudalism? Yeah, maybe we could discuss that. So, hey, this is going to be a wild ride. Don't expect to pick all this stuff up instantly. It is, it's macro. But once you get the basic pieces figured out, and it'll all make sense. Because all I'm doing is shining a light and holding up a mirror, or, just throwing into sharp relief some of the areas that are in the darkness so that you can just see everything. That's what I'm trying to do. Illuminate what's going on. Why is this important? I think that most people don't fully understand what's going on. I definitely think most of the right and the MAGA people, they don't understand what's going on, but the leadership and the people that are the main strategists, they are waging a very complex, very sophisticated war, a civil war. So although this could become hot at any given moment, and seeing troops deployed, seeing National Guard deployed, seeing ICE deployed in areas like DC, now Chicago, Boston, and I'm based in LA, so we've seen that happen. We know what it's all about. Oh, and underpinning all of this is just a little sidestep. Why this is relevant is when you see the whole context of this, when you see this recent Supreme Court ruling, which, what's her name? Judge Frimpong. I hope I'm saying that right. 2 steps back, there was a case where ICE were believed to have overstepped, and Judge Frimpong set up a what's it called, a suspended order. Anyway, and it was kind of like an injunction. It's not an injunction, but it's I'm doing this off the cuff, so I don't have it all written out. What's it called when a stay, or it's not a stay? It's anyway. The net effect was that it was a temporary. Isn't it like a restraining order. So, yeah, I think that's actually a restraining order, isn't it? Yeah, okay. But anyway, temporarily, it was stopping ICE from basically going, grabbing people, particularly if it was on the color of your skin, if you spoke Spanish, if you're in a given locality, or that you're working, say, a low-paid job or something like that. These are sort of the criteria that the ICE agents were using to just, just raid businesses, pick people off the street, take street vendors, for instance. Somebody could be walking their dog or going to the supermarket, and if they happen to hit the supermarket and you were there, and you're brown-colored, well, the Supreme Court, okay, two steps back, that order stopped ICE dead from doing things, which they complied with, which they're complying with now at the moment. Who knows how long that's going to last? But that was then appealed, and the appeal court said, nope, they backed Judge Frimpong's order, temporary order, and that was then appealed on the shadow docket, so like an emergency fast track to the Supreme Court. And oh my God, and I've covered this. I have got a video on this, but I'm going to go into more depth. But basically, it went the 6-3, of course, the 6 Republican appointees to the 3 Democrats against dissenting. Judge Sotomayor really wrote some scathing and very far-reaching comments about this, saying that, basically, you've just you've overridden the Fourth Amendment, and you're allowing racial profiling, basically, because there's like 20 million people in the surrounding areas of Los Angeles that makes up the wider area. And approximately half of those are people of either Mexican or other Central American or South American backgrounds. Hence, they have brown skins, and it's outrageous, but ICE is now empowered. Oh, you've got brown skin, you're speaking Spanish, and they now have the standard of reasonable suspicion. The Fourth Amendment's basically being overridden, and the probable cause, the limitations, and the higher standards required to do that are being, overridden. It's outrageous, because what this means is, this is what I was going to talk about, the Gestapo. And what they did, who did they target? They had the Jews as a target. It's the old scapegoat thing. But this is huge, because how many brown people are there that speak Spanish in the US? I mean, do people see how it's not just alarming? I mean, this is straight fascism right out of the book. That's why I think my study that's here, if you put it in context, you can see how this is just one more step in the erosion of democracy, moving towards some kind of a dictatorship. But the US experience is like a mix of some very different, there's 2 levels to this. There are a lot of parallels to is it 9 different cases, historical cases? And where I'm going to depart from that, though, okay, so I'm still trying to figure out how to say all this. It's in my head, and I've got different studies, but I'm trying to unify them. The problem with unifying them is that they're all doing very different things. What this one is doing is looking at the historical context, what happened in the past, what's similar to what's happening in the US, what are the tactics and the methods that are being paralleled, and what can we expect from that? So in part, there's a predictive element, but I've also got other frameworks, like one that I borrowed from the CIA, which is public, so I didn't steal it or anything. It's available publicly, but Barbara F. Walter, if you've ever read her, she wrote about how to analyze what countries are likely to have civil wars and what the preconditions tend to be, which is why I'm kind of straddling a couple of her sort of concepts in that CIA framework, and I borrowed some of the ideas and then I built them. I mean, they're totally Frankenstein monsters compared to what the CIA model was. But what she talked about, she helped to build this with other people, and what they did was they really analyzed what are the core historical factors that led to civil wars. Very interesting stuff if you've ever read her books. I like the way she writes. It's, she anchors it in reality, which I like. I mean, there's concrete, actual, she starts out talking about real events and goes from there. It's refreshing. Anyway, you can see my difficulty here. I'll instantly just tell you how the whole thing works. Well, I wish it was that easy. I'm just going to do the best I can. I'm going to do these live sessions. I hope some people will roll up and talk. I'm trying to look. I don't know if this chat's working or not. I mean, I could have screwed something. I don't know. Hey, I'm still learning how to use YouTube. I mean, like, I know a lot of it, but there's a lot to know. And I'm doing this myself, so it's not like I have a team. I'm not like I'm not like some of the top political commentators, etc. This is my own gig, I suppose. So how do I convey this? Okay, I'm just going to read through this. I'm going to then see if I can share it, and this might help. Oh, why is it doing this? Oh. Yeah. So methodology and weighting. Okay, so why don't I go through this? Preconditions and analysis, decline of US democracy and the rise of authoritarianism. Historical case analysis, there are core cases: Italy, Germany, Spain, Chile, Hungary, Turkey, Venezuela, Poland, Russia. That's my call. So what I intend to do is we will dig down into each of those, but not in that order. Reason being that some really are more relevant than others. And I'm going to do something really interesting. While Germany, everybody knows about, and that's why I often reference it, because people know what the Gestapo is. But Spain is a very different animal. A lot of people, they don't know what happened in the Spanish Civil War. And there is some elements of it that are really relevant to now. I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm going to put it as bait, because I spent a lot of time on this one because, I'm going to blow people's minds. I haven't seen anybody focus on some of these things. There are there's some really tricky stuff here. And I want to blow people's minds. I want to make it really interesting. So methodology and weighting, institutional analysis. It's about 40% how democratic institutions are captured and undermined. Elite behavior, which is about 25%. Coalition building, norm breaking, violence tolerance. The Trump 2.0, well, even 1.0 is kind of involved in that. Socioeconomic context is about 20% of it. So economic crisis or the conditions. Tariffs, the job numbers are down. Oh boy. The idea is, with those 25 points, if all of them go critical, you can basically say you're pretty much in a dictatorship, all right? And I'm going to give a little bit of it away. Most of the ones I'm going to show you are critical, which is why people should be really paying attention, because this whole country can change overnight the way it's going. And so socioeconomic context, economic crisis, inequality, 4.5 trillion to the super rich, so they can have more yachts, more mansions, more jets, and take 1.2 trillion away from people who deservedly should have health care. That's inequality. Taking the food out of the mouths of children with a SNAP program, so the billionaires can have big tax cuts. Think about that. And then social polarization. MAGA, everybody else. Hardcore MAGA. Oh no, boy. Part of what I'm going to do is to both look at, like, the terrible decline and fracturing of the Democrats into a not very effective party at all, to go from governing to being in disarray. It's a real problem. And MAGA, somehow, with groups that are antithetical to each other and have rivalries, but rival visions and rival objectives, somehow, and this is why I was going to say, where was it? Nope, it's not there. Oh, coalition building, part of the elite behavior, 25% as opposed to socioeconomic context, 20%. And then the information environment. Actually, I should change this, because one of the pieces that I've got really focuses on information technology, but broader than that, AI, rapidly changing technologies. So even though I had this rated at 15%, see, this document's already out of date. It's like a living document, and the numbers keep moving. Man, I would love to have a technical team that could just build the stuff so I could just input it and just crunch it. I mean, I do it, but I'm probably not, I've designed things that are reasonably good, but I'm sure there are people far more talented than me that could really help with this. So, hey, I'm looking for people that are experts in, any of the fields that we touch on. Just anything anybody contribute, I would really appreciate. Because I think if I get this core message out, I think there are smart cookies that can then build onto this, or they have their own structures and then integrate them. And where there are deficiencies, and of course there are. In mine, I'm not omnipotent. I'm not a god or anything. I know, sorry, that's my dry sense of humor. Far from it. What I'm saying is that anything that I'm going to say is going to be flawed. But to the best of my ability, I research as much as I can. I verify and fact check as much as I can. And I try and get what I'm talking about to really reflect the reality as we can see it. And because some things are intangible, or there's a lack of transparency, particularly what's ICE actually doing, what's really happening in those, I'd call them concentration camps, but like the alligator Alcatraz and things like that, but they're kind of like a black site. Like in Louisiana, there's a whole lot of sites that, hey, watch out, people in Los Angeles, 10 million people, 10 million brown people. I mean, I don't want to categorize you, but they have categorized you. Do you get that? It's not my use. I don't care. Everybody's, I look at people as being people, tall, short, male, female, whatever. But the law does not. If you speak Spanish, if you're brown, if you're in a low-paying job, if you're doing something like gardening, landscaping, car wash, I mean, these are some of the things that were issued by the Supreme Court. It's not probable cause that rules this anymore. It's reasonable suspicion, which is a really low bar. Essentially, what's going to happen in reality is they're just going to raid, and they're going to grab anybody that's brown, or if they hear them speaking Spanish or whatever, or anybody that looks foreign. So if you're Asian, same thing. I think they're not going to focus on you as much. But the Hyundai plant, did you see that? People that were legitimately here training other people, and they grabbed a lot. And so a lot of them are just saying, I'm out of here. And they were brutalized by these ridiculous ICE agents. Anyway, I'm digressing. So methodology, academic sources. I don't really need to cover these, but there are different works that I've pulled ideas from. Or whenever I've been doing the research, I've fact-checked and said, hey, is anybody else doing this? And if it says, yeah, I'm just going to acknowledge that other people have done things in the area. It's not like I'm going to claim that this is all... I don't know how I'm going to actually... I keep thinking about this, how I'm going to pitch it. I just think we need to get the model out there and build on it. So my main idea is shine the light on what's happening, how this cold civil war is being fought. What are the battlefields? What are the techniques? Who's involved? How can ordinary people help? And because, people are staring down the barrel of dictatorship right now, and I know some people are terrified, and I cannot imagine what it's like. And by the way, I stand with the people of LA, and I stand with that 10 million people. I am totally with you, and I think it is a great wrong. I think so big, though, it's just not funny. I think in history it will. I think that we will see the Supreme Court go the six of the Supreme Court that back this go down in history as some of. I don't think they're going to be remembered very well. Put it that way. I don't want to color it too much because I think if I don't know where the contempt lines are drawn, so I don't want to. I don't want them to come and grab me for that. But from a political commentator stance, for what's the word for it? Fair use or whatever. I'm reporting what's happening and I'm putting my opinion on it. Okay. And my opinion is it's a terrible ruling, absolutely terrible, unforgivable for those that are going to suffer from this. And so this framework, that fits into this framework. I mean, it's an easy parallel. Just go Germany, 1930 to 34. Scapegoating the Jewish population. The parallels are pretty in your face. And just look at what happened, how the Jews were rounded up, and we all know what happened much later. There's nothing, if absolute power happens, do people realize that that is the other side of what I'm going to do with this. This is going to look at what's similar, compare and contrast. But there's another step that flows from this automatically, which is, well, what happened when they became a dictatorship is then the killer part, because that will inform us to some extent in the future where things might go. Okay, so the 25 preconditions, steps, preliminary framework. I would like to share this, but I'm going to read it first. And I thought I had this in portrait, not landscape, or landscape. Not. Anyway, I don't know what this will do when I share it. Yeah. But I need this to, well, I could do that. I could. Yeah. Why don't I do that? Let's see if I can share this. Hey, where's my helper? I don't have one. I'm the helper. Where's the share? Oh, there it goes. I hope this works. Wish me luck. Oh, no. Is that it? Okay. Oh, it worked. Woohoo. Oh, my little cursor works. I don't know if that's big enough, though. Should I blow this up a bit more? I probably should. How do I do that again? Isn't there a way of doing that? I thought there was. Oh, no, that's the page mode. Oh, there it is. Does that help? I don't know if anybody's messaging me. Where's the messaging thing gone? Oh, I've lost it. Where is it? Oh, come back. I've had to rejig everything, so nothing's working the way it should. Where'd it go? Okay. There we go. Ooh. All right. Okay, I'm going to take this off here. All right, come back here. Okay, I'm going to put it over here. So I don't see anybody in chat. Is that right? Who knows? There's probably some people watching. Say hi if you want to. Okay. I apologize. I should have just done that straight off. Would have made it much easier, wouldn't it? So, okay, academic sources, here we go. So, preconditions. Foundation vulnerabilities, highest risk, extreme polarization, and us versus them rhetoric. Present in all cases creates moral justification for norm breaking. Does that make sense? What norms are, they're kind of like how things are usually done. Like usually after an election, whoever has clearly won the presidency, their opponent typically makes a public announcement conceding. Not so with Donald Trump. That's an example of breaking a norm. But there's a whole lot of these. They're kind of like informal, taken for granted understandings, and they're a natural way that things flow. Like, for instance, the Fourth Amendment. You think that should have a bearing. Due process, habeas corpus, all those things. I mean, a lot of these things are written in the Constitution. I mean, even look recently at what Donald Trump did about mail-in voting. He said, no, we're going to have an executive order against that. He already issued one once, and it was struck down by the courts. Because if you look at the Constitution, what's it in? Article 1, Section 4, isn't it? I don't know. I can't remember. But it's in the first section. I think it's Article 1 that it's in. But if you ever read it, it says, it says in black and white that basically the states run all of the elections. So things like the presidential election, the election for the House of Representatives seats, and the elections for the US Senate. That's all in the Constitution, right? So they're constitutions, so they're not really norms, but the taken for granted concepts of these are. So judicial capture, intimidation, court packing. Look at the Supreme Court and what's happening there. Look at a lot of the judges that had been appointed under Trump 1.0 and now Trump 2.0. Political prosecutions. Sound familiar? I mean, I had this all 3 months ago, a lot of this structure. And so now what? We're seeing Obama accused of treason. Has anybody really looked at that? It's so threadbare. Oh my God. If anybody wants me to deal with that. Oh, I thought I was getting a message. I wasn't. And then John Bolton, like him or not. I mean, these are political vendettas. I don't think they're based in, I mean, clearly not. What Tulsi Gabbard's doing is not based in any substantial evidence of any kind. In fact, to the contrary, there's buckets of evidence that disprove exactly what she's claiming. And there she's saying they had a year-long coup against Donald Trump in 2017. What? It's the old demonize. And look at it, Letitia James and Adam Schiff. I'm going to digress. If I keep digressing like this, I'll never get through this. This is my magpie mind. I'm sorry. I have all these things, and I just see how they're connected, and because I know this stuff. I don't know. Anyway, court packing, political prosecutions, and immunity claims. Yeah, Donald Trump has immunity because the Supreme Court, and I would argue, went totally antithetically against what the whole US Constitution was based on, which is that they didn't want a king, they didn't want a monarch or some sort of absolute dictator or something. That wasn't the intention. And the intention was nobody's above the law, and that your officers, I think, wrote the Constitution not thinking that there would be bad actors that would be just looking to dismantle everything and take a sledgehammer and be as corrupt as they liked and do whatever they liked. And override the Constitution, but they're doing it. Electoral systems manipulation, gerrymandering, voter suppression, election administration capture, which means those that administer the elections, where they are red states or where there's a process that they can take the key roles that will adjudicate whether elections have been conducted fairly, or will, potentially put restrictions on where mail-in ballots can be deposited. Oh, that's in a Democrat area, so we're not going to put any there, but we're going to put some in some violent areas so that they won't go there, Okay. Tier 2, institutional erosion. So legislative process breakdown, bypassing normal procedures, emergency power abuse, civil service politicization, replacing career professionals with loyalists. Does this sound familiar? National alliance strain, withdrawing from democratic partnerships and then aligning with authoritarian regimes. Sound familiar? Constitution norm violation. Excuse me. I should have a mute button for the mic. I'm sorry. I've had this throat thing for weeks now, and it will not go away. It's driving me crazy. So I apologize. So constitutional, wow, I'm really doing well, aren't I? Constitutional norm violation, breaking unwritten rules that maintain democratic balance. Sound familiar? Tier 3, social economic enablers, economic crisis exploitation, using instability to justify extraordinary measures. Does it seem familiar that these tariffs are having a negative effect on world trade, that it's having a negative effect on the economy? Seen the job figures? Have you seen some of the economist projections? Some are even now beginning to talk about some kind of depression, and some are even beginning to see that it could be something worse than was in the 1930s. We're talking about a gradual change. It's when and how it will happen, we don't know, but I use the analogy of the US economy is like the Titanic, and it's hit the iceberg and it's done tremendous damage. And it's like the Titanic is taking on water. Okay. So, where were we? Oh, yeah. Economic crisis exploitation. Scapegoating minorities. Does this sound familiar? Creating internal enemies to unite the base and to justify repression. Well, we've just seen the Supreme Court give the green light to go and grab people with brown skin all over LA, and then potentially this will translate to everywhere else. So, hey, hi, Chicago. You guys, DC, you're probably feeling it. You've seen the ICE thugs out there brutalizing people, just grabbing them, ordinary people, many citizens or lawful permanent residents or valid visa holders or students or tourists. Did you see how much the tourism industry has been sliding? That's billions of dollars in revenue. Hey, prosperity though, make America great again for the super rich and the powerful minority, and systematically destroy everything else. That's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. And that's going to be part of my theme here. This is the systematic, if you think about it, what the promise of the Make America Great Again is, that there was a mythical time from the end of World War II when the Marshall Plan happened to the 80s. There was prosperity. Even people working ordinary kind of jobs, working class jobs, could save up enough to own their own house in their lifetime and retire comfortably. With one little caveat: if you were white and if you were male. Because if you look at it, there was redlining of African Americans and other minorities, so they couldn't get loans for houses and things like that. And people might not realize this. Certainly the people that lived it know this, but a lot of people that are younger and are used to women being able to get jobs for themselves, women who are able to open even a bank account for yourself. And there's no questions asked now, right? It was not always like that. You turn the clock back, and women at one point had to get either their fathers or their husbands, or I suppose their brothers, but they needed a male person to sign off to say yes, they could have a bank account. So this wonderful mythical time that was wonderful was a period of prosperity, was a period of dramatic growth, but it wasn't fairly distributed to everyone. It was great for some. But people that are talking about that, who brought about, and this is one of my other pieces that are going to dovetail into this, and while I'm here, I'm going to flag it. What happened in that era was that people that benefited from not conservative politics, but the progressive side of the spectrum. All of that enabled people for years to develop a prosperous middle class and a prosperous working class. And what do we promise now with MAGA? That's what's going to happen. But the point was that the Republicans never were involved in that, maybe at the edges. But look at the policies now. Look at the one big beautiful bill. Who benefited? The super rich. 4.5 trillion. To get what? More yachts, more jets, more mansions, and the people that really need it. Hey, the working class people got hit the most because the lower you are in the food chain in terms of earning, the worse you did. You actually went backwards in real terms. In real terms, the lower you're earning, the worse you did. So the very people that need it more, because some of these people are working 3 jobs and have kids to feed and have to put a roof over their heads. This is by design. That's my argument. I think this is deliberate, and I think it is designed to slowly force the majority of the population into some kind of a subjugated underclass. What does that mean? Basically serfs and slaves to the super rich. Technofeudalism. It's pretty stark, but I think it's being deliberately engineered this way. And all those people that are working class, what you voted for. And what gets me is you still can't see it. I'm going to lay it out. If you want to believe me or not, I don't care. I'm going to just show the way I see it. I'm going to demonstrate it. I'm going to put it all out there like I am now. This is one key strand. This is a cornerstone, but there are other parts that will lead in. I'm going to show the whole box and dice. And I will shine a light on every little trick in the book that's going on. I aim to empower the working class and the middle class, show you what's going on, give you the tools and the means, at least seeing what the enemy is doing, because there is a real war here. And there are real casualties, but it's not like on a battlefield where people are getting shot. But people's lives are, there are unalivings happening by virtue of what's happening. I mean, cutting the healthcare, people's lives are going to be shortened, and some people are not going to get the care that any other country in the developed world would usually, like go to Canada, go to Europe, go to Australia, go to New Zealand. They care for the sick, not here in the US. It's, too bad. We've engineered it so you can't earn enough and you're working 3 jobs and then you develop diabetes, and too bad. No, it's outrageous. So what am I doing here? Next thing, violence normalization. Tolerating, encouraging political violence by supporters. Oh my God, if that's not true right now, I don't know when. Does this sound familiar? Corruption institutionalization, using state power for personal family enrichment. Sound familiar? Education system capture, the way they're leaning on tertiary institutions, but controlling historical narratives, civil education. Have a look at the education department being slowly dismantled. Have a look at who gets what money for education. Have a look at the diminution, the slow erosion of the funding and of the quality of education right throughout the US on every level. And this is a deliberate policy, in my view. I think this is part, I'm showing you, this is one key battlefield. Well, multiple battlefields here, but I'm going to show you a whole lot more and how they all interlock. You guys getting this? I'm sure many people know this stuff and know a lot of it, but I'm sure a lot of people don't. So forgive me if I have to toe the middle line, which is I got to go, I don't want to make it sound too intellectual and so it doesn't make sense. I want everybody to get this, all right? And I want it to be a common language. So please, if there are people out there that really want to understand this, and if this isn't making sense, I will go out of my way to make you special videos to couch it in terms and show you, give it to you the way that makes sense to you. Because what I'm about is shining the light and making sense of this. So, and if you see mistakes here and you're like an academic that really knows one of these areas in depth or the whole thing, I don't mind. If you want to be critical and suggest where I've made errors or better ways of doing this, I'm open. I'm just throwing this out there. It's like those situations where you try and get people in a room. Oh, what are we going to do? Somebody has to get something out there as a starting point. I know some people have tried this, but I think we need to unify broadly. I think we need to have this out in the open broadly. I think that's the only way. I know some groups cooperate, and there are certainly groups that are coordinating together, but it's not like cohesive. It's not like there's a generally understood where to go, who's doing what, and whatever. I want to map this all out so everybody's totally clear that when there's demonstrations, there are certain groups like Divisible and things like that. This is what they're doing. This is what they're planning. Have a central, disaggregated, which means lots of different people that can have input into it, but have something central that everybody's just going to be able to go, yep, okay, who's doing this? Oh, yeah, ACLU, they're fighting these battles. Oh, yeah, democracy docket, they're heading there. You know what I mean? That's another area, lawfare. I'm going to be talking about that. And it is, you think this is detailed? Lawfare is the same kind of thing like this. It is multi-leveled, multi-dimensional battles going on. And the democracy hangs on all of these. Anyway, consolidation mechanisms. So we've gone past the socioeconomic enablers. We're on tier 4. See how nice this is? I've got 5 tiers for you guys, and I've got 25 key areas. I did this way because trying to go through different iterations of this is the one that worked the best and made the most sense. Is it totally comprehensive? No, it has definite deficiencies, but it's only designed to do one thing here, which is do the compare and contrast and then look at what's happening and put this in a historical context. But there are whole dimensions that then tie into this. Okay, so this is comprehensive, but in where it is, there are other parts of this big chess game, Monopoly, stroke Texas Hold'em. I don't know, poker. It's the further we go down, it'll make sense. I promise you, I will make it make sense. Opposition criminalization. Sound familiar? This is consolidation mechanisms. This is like cementing in for the long term dictatorial or authoritarian measures or whatever. So using legal systems to prosecute political rivals. This actually should cover more because lawfare is kind of here, but I've kind of broken lawfare off because lawfare in itself is a huge monster. It is multidimensional. Civil society suppression, restricting non-government organizations, unions, independent organizations. Sound familiar? Part of the way lawfare works, by the way, is it's like a war of attrition. What does that mean? You're trying to wear down your opponents. You're trying to drain them. And by peppering the courts with all sorts of different things, any overstepping of the Constitution where you have to go to court and lodge, or what's the term? Not when you lodge a writ. What is it? File. When you file a case. I hope I'm getting the terminology right. In that lawfare, when you file a case, think about the ACLU and all of the other organizations like it. They need funding. They need to have an administration, like, people doing bureaucratic stuff, computer people that make sure there's computer systems running. They have to have their own information systems. They need competent lawyers and people that support them. And I expect paralegals and things like that. There's a lot. You've got to put together a political argument into a document, and you have to file it, and then you have to go argue it in a court, in a federal court, usually in this case, but any kind of, but they're arguing about anything, which is a civil violation or a constitutional one. All of these organizations that are doing this, or I'm forgetting, the blue states, where the attorney generals of those blue states, they often cooperate too, whether it's one or several, or whether it's 13, 14, 15 or whatever it is, but they often work in concert. Sometimes they split and they're independently putting in slightly different ones too. There's a lot of strategies and tactics in this. It's a war zone all its own, and that's another area I'm going to cover. Oh boy, it's breathtaking. So where are we? Civil society suppression. Oh no, I covered that. Information control escalation. So censorship, surveillance, digital authoritarianism, banning books and things like that. Yeah. Leaning on, the surveillance component. Look at Palantir and look at the aggregation of things like your social security information, your health information, your IRS information, and then anything else. I mean, there's a whole stack of things into one unified database. This was never supposed to happen. The ICE surveillance software that ICE has, or is it Department of Homeland Security? Does it come under it first and then ICE? I don't know how it's structured. I thought it was ICE, but maybe it's the whole DHS and ICE. Maybe it's all shared. I don't know how it's configured. I think it would be interesting to know what they've actually done. I only read the blurb, but behind the scenes, who knows what they're doing? But I believe any person, and particularly at this moment when ICE is searching for anybody that speaks Spanish and has a Latin or Hispanic, I hope I'm getting those terms right, and I apologize if I'm not encapsulating this right, but anybody that's basically brown skin from either South America heritage, Central America, Mexico, etc. And I've probably missed a few. Anyone though that comes under that ambit that the Supreme Court recently ruled, where you're vulnerable, where they have, where ICE can, with impunity, basically grab you on reasonable suspicion, which is a very low bar. Yeah. The problem is surveillance is a component of this, and this also ties into George Orwell's 1984, the idea of Big Brother. Well, that's another thing I'm going to talk about is, not only how prescient that is that George Orwell saw this coming and he wrote it. Chapter and verse has it out there. And sure enough, look at what's happening in our age. That's a whole dimension in itself. And there's so many aspects to it. Quick hint, Peter Thiel was one of the founders of Palantir, and Palantir is doing a lot of contracts. And by the way, Stephen Miller owned or owns, I don't know what's happened. We haven't heard about this, but there was a conflict of interest. He had, I've even got a video on this. He owns I don't know whether he still owns it or not. Last time I looked, he did, but I don't want to make a statement without having fact checked it. And this is just off the cuff, so I know to be careful. But do you see what I'm saying, though? There's all these dimensions. I intend to go down each of these avenues in detail, and then I will show how different ones tie to each other. But what you guys need is, we need a common language. Now, there's other people that are probably doing this. I would like to integrate and unify, so we have one big picture with all the different aspects. Is this helpful? Let me know in the comments. Ping me directly if you want to get involved. Yeah, 12 pages, and we're on page what, 2? What's the time? Oh, well, okay. So information control and escalation. So censorship, surveillance, digital authoritarianism. Yeah. Economic weaponization, using state and corporate power to punish opponents. Sound familiar? Stephen Colbert having his show shot down so that the FCC would then approve, because Trump was ordering it not to, would approve a transaction. And where a law case was that was frivolous was they paid out, was it 15 million? So economic weaponization, controlling the purse strings, denying things that should be, that normally would flow. It's like vindictiveness. Regional power concentration, appointing loyalists as governors, mayors, regional administrators. Sound familiar? Okay, and then the end game of this is the final consolidation. Constitutional rewriting. Sound familiar? Formal elimination of democratic constraints. Well, the Bill of Rights, the 4th, 5th Amendments, they're under assault right now. I mean, the whole thing is. I mean, he's trying to say that he should choose how the elections are run and control them. And I did a video on that too, about how they might use executive orders in a tactical fashion. Again, a kind of lawfare, and I will go into that in a great deal of detail. Single party dominance, eliminating meaningful electoral competition. Heard of gerrymandering, heard of voter suppression, all those things that are going on. Because if the Republicans fought fairly in a straight fight and did so fairly and above board, they would lose. I mean, they're incredibly unpopular at the moment, and they're working not for the interests of the majority. They're doing it for a small minority. So gerrymandering, you're trying to distort the vote, so people's votes don't, so people with dark skin or brown skin count for less. Maybe I should preface this that I'm a very strong advocate for one person, one vote, one value. That's what a democracy is. Everybody gets a fair and equal say. That's what should happen, and it's not. Succession planning, preparing a dynastic or controlled transition. I think we're not seeing that yet, but I wonder what JD Vance is going to do, because I mean, let's face it, Trump is not looking too well. How long is he going to be able to stay functional? Are we seeing a rapid, seeing his health failing, basically? I'm not trying to be, there's no judgment. I'm just talking pure fact. If Trump is sick and he is unable to continue as president, next in line is JD Vance, and then who will follow and what happens next? I don't want to go into too much detail on that, because there's a whole lot of precursors that will make that a lot more obvious. It's understanding the right, understanding the megasphere, understanding who the players are, what they're doing, or that we know of, and then I can only speculate for a lot of this, because a lot of this is hidden, and a lot of people will give disinformation So we've got to try and see through the fog of war, as it were, because in wars there's a fog, and the idea is that you're trying to do subtle moves and catch the opponent off guard, surprise them, something like a Pearl Harbor kind of scenario, where you just strike hard and fast at a key target. Yep. That's what's happening. Constitutional rewriting, single party dominance. 23 is succession planning. We covered that. What have we got? 24. Total media state control. Eliminating all independent journalism. Well, we're not there yet. But journalism is a target here. Your mass media. So that goes down with information control, really. That kind of dovetails. And then complete civil rights suspension. Formal ends to freedoms of speech, assembly, etc. Anybody notice what's going on in DC, what's going on in Boston, what's going on in Chicago, what's been going on and is about to be, well, I don't know what's happening right now. I mean, I would love to be reporting on what ICE is up to, because they got the go-ahead to just raid, destroy businesses, rip families apart, and terrorize communities here in Los Angeles. But I bet they're trying to do it in Chicago. They're probably doing it in Boston. Definitely huge presence, and an unwelcome one in all these cities, by the way, but unwelcome in DC. Should I do this? I mean, I've probably covered enough time. Okay, so as you can see, historical analysis, and it goes on and on and on. And we go into a great deal of detail. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that. Come back here. Okay, I think that's me back. Yes. Fantastic. Okay, so there's a lot of ground covered there, and I have still haven't started going into the detail. But this is the dictatorship bingo. This is the first step in, at the macro level, establishing all the battlefields, establishing what's going on, who's doing what, and then we'll dig in and we'll go into what the tactics are, how they're doing this, what the objectives are, where the fights are, where democracy's weak, where we're strong, where dictatorship, like the purging of the FBI, it's now mega FBI. I mean, it's not even, I mean, look at it. I mean, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say, look at some of the violence that's happening that could have been stopped if enough intelligence was out there. But guess what? The top end of the FBI has been purged. The people that were there for decades, in some cases, the experts, and all the structures and whatever, a lot were replaced. And many people have been repurposed to immigration, which was never the main focus of the FBI, but it is now. And like counterinsurgency. Is it open season for foreign spies to come in now and basically be unchallenged? I don't know. But the FBI and DOJ are more focused on persecuting political opponents, are more focused on cementing power, is more focused on chasing innocent people and calling them criminals erroneously, because they're not. So that is opening a door about the dictatorship bingo. I have tried to lay down, do some shoots, but it takes time for me to edit and put in graphics if I can find the right ones, and then pace it right, and then and I figured if I do that, it could be, because when I edit, it takes Like if I do an hour of shooting, that'll condense down maybe to half an hour, maybe 20 minutes. But then for me to do that, and I've got to edit it and cut bits out and bring things in, and then, there's all the research and then putting it together and then delivering it the right way. And it takes time. And your editing can sometimes take 4 times the time of the main shooting. So maybe 4 hours. So that's 5 hours just putting that together, plus whatever there was before. And then there's all of the paperwork that goes with it, like the description and all that. And then you've got to upload the thing, and you've got to, there's a lot of admin with all this. So it could take days. And that's just for a little bit. I figure if I just do some live stuff, what I'm really trying to do is I need more subscriptions and I need more likes and stuff like that. I mean, not because I need that per se, but to get the word out, you've got to have enough people locking onto it. And so the more people that see what I'm doing, I'm hoping that, and I'm trying to reach out, but, because there's a million, there's, how many people are in the US now? 300 and what is it? Million? So there's a lot of voices out there. And so what I'm doing might get lost in, because let's face it, a lot of commentators out there and on YouTube at the moment, they're just doing day-to-day stuff like, oh, this is what happened today. Oh, Trump moved into Chicago, and a little bit of analysis, and that's it. But it's not like they're tying it all together as one big theater of a cold civil war. I think that's different. I mean, I think there are other people that I know that there are some people that are doing some things around this area, but the kind of just, it's still, I think we've got to lay it all out and connect it all together. If I get it out and there are other people, like definitely academics or people, just bright people, or just people that know from the ground whatever's really happening, we've got to get the whole strategic picture, the tactical area that's going on, and then the actual what's happening on the ground. And I mean, that's a huge amount. And there's so many different theaters of these battles that are going on. If we can put it into an area where we can kind of go, oh, well, these things are all linked. You see what I'm saying? Like the use of troops, ICE, and National Guard in key cities as a form of intimidation. That is one arm of what the dictatorship objective leverages. Because I mean, my whole theory here is, I'm arguing there is a systematic, complete war aiming for a dictatorship, and there are those that are opposed to that, which is the majority of the people. But the people that are pushing for a dictatorship hold the Congress. They hold both the Senate and the House of Representatives. They hold the Supreme Court, and they hold the executive, the presidency, and all of the departments. So that's an immense amount of power. And see how there's no checks? All these people that voted the way they did had no idea. I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of people I know and myself, we're even talking about the potential of a dictatorship push happening even back in 2016. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Well, to us. Yeah, it was really obvious. And I still think a lot of people are in disbelief, or I don't know whether it's, there's cognitive dissonance for some groups. But I think some people, they're in denial. I don't think they really think this is happening. You see a lot of people out there demonstrating, and there are certainly a lot of people, a lot of commentators, and some people are definitely fully engaged, and they get it. They see what's coming. But I think a whole cadre of people out there, millions probably, I think they kind of, no, politics, shut it off. But I don't think I mean, some people are waking up now, like seeing this violence, like these ICE thugs just barreling in and brutalizing people, innocent people. And look at the overreach and this ridiculous justification. Or, these bad people that shouldn't be in the country, that blah, 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 blah. Nonsense. This is not what that's about. They're using that as a tool. they're building a Gestapo, a secret police. And what do you think they're going to do with the secret police? You think now that they're going for all the, half of LA is now on the menu, citizens or not, that's the reality, because the Supreme Court just ruled that way. Do you see how it's all fitting together? This is a monolithic plan. And Project 2025, more than half of that's implemented. Go read it if you haven't. And that's another thing that we need to cover is that whole purging and the smashing. I agree with the arguments that are out there that I think they're deliberately trying to destroy the US. I think they're trying to destroy it. They mean to destroy the governments and the whole idea is they want to transform the US into something very different. They hate democracy. And their claim is, I think it's a dirty game because I think they have been dismantling and damaging democracy so it won't work. They're the ones that are making it not work. And then they say, look how democracy is not working. See what I'm saying? It's it's sophistry. If they worked with democracy and supported it, we wouldn't have these problems, but they've dismantled it and they've made it so it's so bad. And then they've got propaganda arms like Fox 24/7 repeating lies over and over and over. And the old adage of if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. Okay? But look at it economically. I mean, realigning the US against Europe to side with Russia. Tectonic shifts happened. Why do you think all of these markets suddenly, with this erratic tariff policy? Look at Smoot-Hawley in the 30s and what a disaster that was. Ronald Reagan was a free trade guy. The conservatives for decades were free trade. And now we have a protectionist in the House who doesn't even really fully understand what protectionism is. Like, have a look. They tariffed an island with penguins on it, and that's all there were. Because, I don't know, my theory is that there was perhaps an intern or somebody that wasn't terribly bright, fed something into something like ChatGPT or one of the others, or a combination, but they didn't understand the parameters. And so it was suddenly saying, oh, there's an unequal relationship here, so we're going to hit Vietnam or something like that with 50% tariff. And, whole industries get destroyed for these other countries. Don't think that it's not having a catastrophic effect on many different countries, jobs, businesses, because the whole world trade is a complex, very fine-tuned, delicate system. And you come in with a sledgehammer and smash it, it has terrible negative effects. Hey, people in the agricultural sectors, have you noticed? Have you noticed that you have markets that were shut off? I know some of you have. It's crazy. And again, this is part of the Titanic model that I'm suggesting. The damage has been done. It hit the iceberg. The iceberg was Trump doing erratic, crazy stuff. Why is the stock market still going up? Because the tech sector's strong. Why is the tech sector strong? Because the big innovations and major game-changing AI and other technologies that are rapidly, exponentially developing are fundamentally changing the way everything works, but economies. But the thing is that if you're talking about traditional trade relations, and I've said this in one of my shorts, they're gone. When I say that, I don't mean the markets are gone and people aren't trading, because they still need from the US, and the US still needs things from other countries. But the goodwill that was there, the people that believed in and thought the US was, for years, from the Marshall Plan onwards, it was called the, American hegemony for a reason, which was there was solid relationships. And even though there might have been disagreements and there might have been, this myth, though, that America was being diddled by everybody else is nonsense. America benefited massively from this. And Trump has burnt all those bridges and relationships. Let me describe just one aspect of this. He's like, oh, in the UN, they're not paying their way. Oh, it's terrible. Anybody ever really think about why the US has led the technology for so long and militarily has led the world. There's a reason for that, and that is from the uh, World War II ending and the rebuilding period. Key relationships were built with Europe and NATO. And NATO's a dirty word. NATO was one of the best things for the United States. Go have a look and think this through rather than listening to the brainwashing nonsense. Why was NATO important to the US? Have a guess. Think about what happens when you have defense contractors. Think about the amount of money that you have to invest in technology and development, research and development. The cornerstone to the American supremacy militarily for decades was that there was a huge interlocked politically and foreign policy and trade-wise locked in relationships with Europe and other parts of the world and Asia, like Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, you name it. But there was a huge pool of money because everybody benefited from better weaponry. Did everybody else get the same highest quality as the US had? No, but they got pretty much near and perhaps their own version of it. Kellogg Brown and Root, Halliburton, Raytheon. Sound familiar? The reason why America dominated for so long was because there was a market pool and political alliances that enabled the US to have significantly more funding. And because the government was smart enough over many years to set aside significant portions on research and development with that massive pool of money. Now, what do you think happens when Trump gets his political sledgehammer and basically says, stuff you to Europe? I mean, and J.D. Vance going and saying the rudest things to the European allies, and then threatening what? Denmark over Greenland, and then threatening your most loyal ally, Canada, saying, oh, you'll be the 51st state. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, very funny. You go talk to the Canadians and you see what they think. It's not funny. Not funny. And the threat's real, though, because Trump is that. He does crazy Ivans, where he could just go off in any direction. He could launch a military assault on Mexico or on Canada, because Mexico, who, right next door to where I am, there's positive trade relations. Everybody benefited. The reason why so much wealth and prosperity came about was because you had a system that worked. The real problem with it, though, why America had real problems and why MAGA developed was because healthcare is so expensive. The cost of medications is ridiculously expensive here. The cost of living is nuts here. Private equity buys up all the housing and drives the prices up. So whole generations of people can't afford their own home, where they could up until the early 80s or late 70s. Because guess why that was? Because the non-conservative policies from the end of the Second World War right up until the 80s developed prosperity, built a middle class, built a working class. Even working class people could retire owning their own home and having a decent retirement. That's not the case now. And not only that, they even took away healthcare. 1.2 billion in healthcare, ripped away from people that need it to give more money to the billionaires. This is not a mistake. This is a whole interlocking set of strategies and tactics. The whole purpose of Trump and Trump 2.0 that I see is dismantling the US and diminishing it from being a world leader to an isolated dictatorship with an ever decreasing standard of living, with a diminution of all the services. So everything that had been built up to the early 80s, late 70s, there has been a concerted effort to dismantle that piece by piece. Death of 1,000 cuts. Even the laws now. I mean, if people can't see, okay, it's brown people today, who's next? Because they're not going to stop there. They double down. Who's suffering from this? Do the working class people really think that they're doing better right now? Do all those people that voted for Trump that were promised, economic prosperity, they smashed the trade. They're destroying commerce. These ICE agents are destroying commerce. Where do you think the main engine of the US is? And the 80 billion that gets kicked in net positive from California into help the red states, which nobody's complaining about, but they're killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. The tourism markets are being destroyed by this ICE stuff. Who's it benefiting? Have they really got more people that they've ejected than, well, Obama or Biden did? You look at the numbers. No, they haven't. Are they really getting the criminals? No. Are they doing tremendous damage to commerce, to productivity, to, wealth generating activities? Oh, yeah. There's sledgehammering it. You think that these crazy ICE people going around brutalizing people, that's a good thing because they deserve it. Because you're not brown and you think that's all right? I care. I know a lot of people around me care. But you MAGA people, I know. I'm not talking to the hardcore. I'm talking about the people that sort of voted for Trump and now are beginning to see that it really wasn't a good idea. Do you really think that destroying all these departments and firing all these experts was a good idea? Look at what happened with NOAA, the weather, the agency that looks after weather alerts, like hurricanes or deluges or fires or whatever it is, but they alert. They have tracking systems. Well, because they removed so many people, look what happened in Texas, where those people were killed. When the weather warning didn't get through. Why? Because the key people that usually would handle that, it was disrupted. This is just one example. All these diminutions, and it's really sabotage. I mean, they're eyeing all that money that the majority of the Americans paid in to Social Security, which the super rich didn't pay much into. You do realize that they only pay up to a certain level and then they stop. So they're not paying much money in. It's the working class and the middle class that are paying it in. And guess who are being denied that? Or they're raising the age, or they're trimming it down so there's less and less, when inflation means the prices are skyrocketing. So what would have been an okay amount of money that might have maybe got you through now is just not even remotely sufficient. What are you doing to the seniors? People that were going to retire or have retired. As this inflation goes up, as these markets fall to pieces, and if you have a recession and possibly a depression, and you just took all that money away from things like the SNAP program, all of these programs, and what happens if you get tremendous unemployment? Look at the unemployment numbers. They're flying up. Do you see this? Did you see the last jobs numbers, the last two, before they get doctored and before they before they cease to be reliable, because Trump is going to say, no, I want you to put these numbers out. Look at the Fed, trying to control it and fire the Fed. I mean, that's an important part of the economy, right? And they're just going to jump in there and just do whatever they want at the time just to make things look good for the present. They're doing tremendous long-term damage. Do people not realize it's like the Titanic? That iceberg is the water's flowing in. The US is crippled now in fundamental ways. There are the key strategic tectonic shifts geopolitically. Okay, that's a mouthful. What it means is you pissed all of your allies off. You pissed Europe off. China's talking to Europe, trying to find markets because there are natural trade fits between them because they each have things the other one wants. And for a long time, the US was supplying and buying you see what'll happen. And because Europe was supporting the US for so long, because the US was really the big protector and has now said, no, we're no longer. And NATO, stuff you. And so all of those military innovations that were happening, that pool of research is going to shrink. And what do you think is going to happen? You think that the supremacy of the technology it's just magically going to continue? You don't think that fundamentally this huge realignment, it's going to be America alone, all right, but America first, but it's going to be an isolated America with less and less trade. And here's the killer. The US owes a supremely large amount of money, all right, the government. And in this last bill, they had the opportunity to reduce that, but not, you know what they did? They raised it because they gave 4.5 trillion to the billionaires, which they're putting on the tab for everybody for the future, which is attracting interest. And the more deficit you have, the more money you owe, the more money you have to service that debt. Costs huge amounts of money. They could be doing other things, and they could have reduced that, and they didn't. They made it worse when they could have made it better. But what happens if the US dollar ceases to be the central currency, to be a major currency that everybody puts their money into, because the US degrades fast enough at some point? Where's that point? Well, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 6 months. I don't know. We're not going to know because all of the figures now are going to be obfuscated. And you know those Doge guys that went in and accessed everything? Have they got kill switches in all the departments now? Did they materially put monitoring gear in there? Did they put gear that will corrupt data? Are they going to be able to change? Is all that electronic data now? Is the veracity of the data going out the window? Because if they control everything, they can change all those numbers quick smart now. Record keeping, that's part of this war. They can rewrite history. So instead of a fact-based world, it's going to be alternative facts that whatever the dictatorship, whoever is the dictator, because Trump might I don't know if he is going to be around long enough for to do that. And so the big question is too, what happens when Trump exits though? Because he has that charisma. He has mesmerized millions of people. If he goes, will they all transfer to JD Vance? Will JD Vance be able to step in the shoes of Trump? Will he be able to do what Trump does? So that's another dimension. And does that mean because Trump was doing it gradually that they will then go for a quick coup, quick crackdown? Is that what's coming? They're already testing out sending troops into cities. For what? It's not for law and order or anything like that. This is pure fascism. They're doing it saying, we rule the roost. And when we get nasty, we will unleash these military forces on the general public. That's what they're trying to scare you. I think, though, that they're reluctant to do that because I bet you that a lot of the National Guard are going to say, that's an illegal order, I'm not doing it. And I bet you a lot of the military is thinking the same thing, like, when you swear when you're in the military, you swear your allegiance to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump, not to a president. You swear it to the people of the United States through the Constitution. So, many pieces moving. I think the biggest problem we have at the moment is on two main levels: is these troops being sent into these cities like this, and that the Supreme Court just eroded basically the Fourth Amendment. And this is the one thing, okay, and I promise each time I'm talking to you guys, if you listen to me live, I'm going to tell you something, get your minds going. I mean, maybe I have already. But here's the thing nobody's talking about, and I'm going to do this too. If the Supreme Court can make a ruling that changes, that essentially has an impact on the Fourth Amendment, and I think to some extent on the Fifth Amendment, that takes away part of your due process, that opens a whole swag of the population on some crazy pretext. They've basically said if you're brown, if you speak Spanish and you're working a low-paid job and you're in a certain locality, that constitutes reasonable suspicion and you can grab people. You don't have to, ICE is not supposed to have power over citizens. It was never supposed to do that. And it's a civil power. It's not a criminal arm. And yet they have just given it more power than the FBI or the LAPD or anybody else. They just gave them broad sweeping powers. It's temporary, but at the moment, does that not inform the rest of the country that this is going to be the precedent? Because at some point, this case has to be resolved, that Judge Frimpong is overseeing, and they will make a ruling. And then if it's not the way that Trump and friends like, that MAGA likes, they will appeal it. It'll go to the appeal court. I bet you the appeal court upholds Frimpong's ruling, and they will then, using the shadow docket or the emergency docket for the Supreme Court, they will fast track that immediately, and they will make a ruling on it. And I bet you, read Kavanaugh's ruling, I bet you it'll be something like that. Kavanaugh's ruling was breathtaking in that, I don't know where the contempt line is, but the way it read to me was, I would never have thought anybody could possibly read the Constitution and the history of it and make a ruling like that. But, that's the problem. The Achilles heel of the whole US system is that the Supreme Court has no check on it. If it wants to rule anything, in theory, it's the final arbiter of interpreting things. One would never have thought that you could have a complete reversal of what was what was in place for centuries and was in the initial document or nearby. Like the amendments flowed pretty soon after the initial document went through. But that's what's happening, and that's a real worry. This is if it's not the most scary thing I've ever seen, I don't know what else is. Because where does that stop? Okay, and here's the big thing I was going to say. Okay, you got that? Think about where they're going, what they're trying to do. Absolute power is the objective. Eroding all these things I just talked about. You're trying to destroy democracy and assert a dictatorship in its place, or an authoritarian regime. If they're taking away people on the streets' rights, basically allowing ICE to basically racially profile and not much more, giving them reasonable suspicion is now the standard, which is a low bar, which means they're just going to be able to round up people like they can go anywhere. Oh, there's a Mexican wedding somewhere. People of Mexican heritage, 3/4 of them, 90% are all citizens. Up comes ICE, floods the place, and basically drag off 100 people to these gulags. And then they've got to prove that they're citizens, which is a hard thing to do. God knows how many citizens ICE have got that can't get out because they've been denied, legal representation, whatever. And then in the bonding kangaroo courts, the immigration courts, they're being increasingly purged because they purged the top end of the administrative judges. The immigration judges fall under the Department of Justice. They are not a judicial judge. They're not an Article 3 judge. They are part of the executive. They are an administrative judge under Pam Bondi, under the Department of Justice. And the impression that you get is that they fired like 100 judges over that now, over the last, since Trump 2.0 came in, and replacing them with people that are just going to summarily dismiss cases without even looking at the facts. That's what they want. They just want to get the deportation numbers going. There's no such thing about justice or actually assessing, well, this person actually does have a specialized visa, because like those people in the Hyundai plant, they were specialized people that came in under specialized temporary visas to educate a whole lot of people to create a stack of jobs. And what happens? ICE gets in there and terrorizes them and drags them all off in handcuffs, strips them, does evil things, brutalizes them. And then, no surprise, the Hyundai firm says, oh, no, is it Hyundai? Yeah. They say, well, we're not going to keep you. If you want to go home, we'll pay for it. Thanks so much. And here's some compensation. These guys are nuts. Like Trump was saying, oh, we're going to attract all this business and generate some jobs using the tariffs, which has done the opposite generally. But in some areas, when people are actually trying to do this, you send ICE in and thump them up, making them go, well, why did we invest in America to get jobs there when you're just going to brutalize our people? Think about it. They're not about commerce, and they're not about commerce. They're not about prosperity. They're not about making America great again for everybody. Let's make it great for the billionaires and for their clique. That's it. Everybody else, they don't care. And they don't care that the whole US military is going to diminish because the technology is going to slide off now. They've destroyed that and the NATO relationships. And all of those markets are going to shrink and change as they all. Do you guys not get that throughout the world, everybody else is going, oh my God, they're going to become a dictatorship maybe, but they're so erratic. We can't rely on them, and it'll destroy our businesses and we'll lose jobs, and they have to protect themselves. So they're all realigning with each other and cutting the US out of the markets, both to sell and to buy. They're going to add a premium to whatever, like the tariffs, it's making things more expensive. The prices for everything are going to go up. You don't think it's already on the upper end of the spectrum in terms of where they projected it would be recently. It's moving up, and its trajectory is up, not down. So things are going to get more expensive more quickly. Key markets you held, foreign investment, tourism, foreign students, all these billions of dollars of revenue has been destroyed. And you're all told, oh, you're told all these stories. Look at the facts. Look what's happening. A sledgehammer has been applied. It's an economic disaster. And the real consequences are, like, please go and look at what life was like in the 1930s during the Great Depression. You don't think that can go worse? I mean, just look at what the key economic experts are saying. And, they're being very careful. They can't say, oh, my God, there's a depression looming, possibly. And if it is, it's going to be a nightmare. They can't do that. They've got to couch it in academic terms. Read between the lines and look at what they're saying. Really look. It's a disaster. What is happening now is a complete dismantling of the country, pushing it backwards, destroying investment, destroying innovation, like even cancer research that was on the cusp of delivering cures for millions of people. they've destroyed. Look at the RNA technologies that were going to cure people and prevent them from getting sick. Destroyed. Newsflash, you know what was really going on? They want you to get sick. They want unemployment to go up. They want many other smaller businesses to fail. They want to diminish and destroy both the middle class and the working class. They want everybody to be desperate for jobs. That's how you control people. It's an overall strategy. That is what they're doing. It is a campaign of absolute total destruction. Make America Great Again is really about make America nice fiefdoms for the techno-feudal overlords, a nice Gilead for those for the Christian nationalists who are right wing. They're not really Christians. They put the Christian banner up. I call them chinos, Christian in name only, because most of them they don't care about the Bible and they just cherry pick it. Like you have a look at somebody like Monty Maida, who will eviscerate these people because she knows the Bible, and they don't. They prop up they just find some excuse to justify the disastrous policies they're putting into place. This is all about control. This is all about domination. It's all about winning. But what they're doing is they're destroying the country in order to rule supreme. Does that make sense? That's what I'm showing here. The whole objective of what they're doing now, sending troops in and whatever, is to make violence normal, the expression of power becomes normal. The misuse of power, the incredible amount of corruption. Trump suddenly 25 billion in one of those meme coin things. I mean, okay, they can't access it quite yet, but look at the billions. Look at the plane he's getting from Qatar, and it's taxpayers' money that's going to do it up for him, and he will own it. I mean, it might be a pile of garbage, but it's still worth money. See, and $200 million on a ballroom. And kids are starving out there. People working 3 jobs trying to keep the roof over their heads, and healthcare and food, and look after their kids' education, and they're going backwards. This is by design. Why is it that everybody was going forwards from 1945-ish, maybe a bit later, 47 maybe, but there's a huge boom period up until the end of the 70s, early 80s, 70s, depending on how you slice it. And people could retire in comfort and own their own home. Now, people don't even have enough to retire on. They're pushing the age of retirement up, not down, up. The gap between the super rich and everybody else has grown dramatically. You go back and look at under Eisenhower. Look at what the gap was. Look at what the contribution of the super rich was into the government. The poorest people are paying. It's a regressive situation. The one big beautiful bill was regressive. It hit the poorest and the most vulnerable people the hardest, and the people that are the most well off got the most support. They got huge chunks of money. Like, look at the budget. Just look at it. Look at the numbers and what actually happened. You tell me, was that really good for the working class that voted for Donald Trump? Did they fare well? In reality, did they get more services? Did they get better tax breaks? Are there more jobs that are being created for them? Are they getting more protection so that there's safety in their workplace? No, the opposite. They are going backwards more. Their education's been eroded. Their healthcare's been eroded. The prices are flying up. The tax situation is even more unfair. They're bearing a huge burden when they're actually going backwards. They're having to borrow to stay alive. They've got less power in the workplace. There's even more power to the employers to do things that would never happen in Europe or most of the other parts of the developed part of the, just look at the education numbers, look at the healthcare numbers, look at all the numbers, and look where the US is ranked. Just have a look. There's a reason for this. This is by design. And if people don't stop this soon, you will be in a dictatorship. You will have no rights. The First Amendment rights will go out the window. You will not be able to speak freely. If you want to know what life's going to be like, look at North Korea, look at China, and it's going to be something along those lines. Everything you say and do, they will look at what happened with the Great Leap Forward and all those different things in China. Look at the times when they had the re-education programs. Do people not realize that all these concentration camps that they're building for ICE, all that money? Did you see the 350 billion that went to DHS and ICE? Did you see that ICE now is better equipped and has more funding than the FBI and even some parts of the military? In fact, it's bigger than many, even foreign armies. What do you think that's for? Oh, because we're going to deport a whole lot of illegals? Look at how many illegals they've really shipped off. And out of that, it's supposed to be criminals, right? Have a look at the actual percentages of the criminals. I mean, it's something like 7%. And of that, the violent criminals are what? Is it 1, 2, or 3%? Because of all this obfuscation and whatever, it's not transparent. We don't really know all the, because they're now playing with the numbers and trying to hide them and whatever, because they're dishonest. They don't want to tell you the truth anymore. They want to just tell you, just read 1984. This is like textbook 1984. They're rewriting history, they're rewriting everything, and they're telling you stuff that's just totally untrue. All you got to do is look at the reality, look at what's really happening. Hey, if you want to see what's happening in LA, I mean, just look at the videos that go out. People film them now, and they show the brutality. And there's cases all the time now of citizens, of people that legally. So it's not like they're targeting illegal people. The illegal people are only a small percentage. It's not like they're in, out of the 10 million that they're targeting, they're trying to claim there's 2 million of them are undocumented. Really? I don't know. I really don't know what the numbers are, because I don't think anybody really knows. But I would be greatly surprised if it's even anywhere near that kind of number. It's probably a fraction of that. And they're doing all this for immigration because somehow it's a good thing. Just look at the material effect of it. As it stands, they're just grabbing people that are productive, paying money into the system. And guess what? They don't get the social security benefits. They're sealed out of it. They don't get the health care. But what is it? Was it 83 or 86 billion? I forget. It's not in front of me, but billions of dollars they kick in. And here in Los Angeles and California, it is the 4th largest economy in the world. If it became a country in its own right, it would be the 4th largest economy in the world. Where do you think the main prosperity drivers, if the whole idea of MAGA is prosperity for everybody? That is the promise. Why would you smash, destroy, damage commerce, destroy trade, destroy revenue that comes in? Tourism, students, people that come in on visas for particular knowledge that you need. It costs money, 350 billion being thrown for destructive purposes, destroying constructive areas that generate the revenue that makes the surplus that goes to all the red states. Was it 83 billion? And you're destroying the goose that lays the golden egg. If that's all this was, Does that not sound insane? Is that not crazy? I mean, anybody that's rational, if you are a mesmerized MAGA Borg, like on Star Trek, or a Terminator, like in The Terminator, which you can't negotiate with, you can't reason with it, or it's like The Walking Dead, though, the ones that just go to where the red meat is, you know, they're locked. It's a cult. They only believe what they're told, and everything is twisted to whatever the narrative is that they're given. But there's a lot of people that are in that periphery that I think they're beginning to wake up and see this is the greatest disaster in US history. This is the most far-reaching, disastrous threat to everybody. It is bad. And look at them. They are baying now for the blood of everybody else. Do you think that there isn't going to be... You watch the retribution. They want violence. They want to destroy. They are not constructive. I call them the nightmare people. They are the destroyers. There's nothing constructive about MAGA. MAGA is about domination. MAGA is about subjugation. MAGA is about basically everything that was in 1984 is part of it. There's more to it. But everybody else, I mean, everybody does want to have, you want decent jobs, decent pay for it, not have to pay too much taxes. You do want good health care. You do want good food. Because, by the way, they've sabotaged even the FDA. They've sabotaged all of the groups that check on milk products and cheese and all the other products and creams and whatever else that protect people from getting diseases that could kill you. And they just taken that away and said, "Oh no, you in the private industry, that's all right. Just cut corners." See what I'm saying? It's a nightmare. The rest of us, I mean, I champion California. I'm here for a reason because it is the main engine of the world and the US. It's the main engine. It makes no sense logically why they do this, but I'll tell you why they're doing it. Because they want a dictatorship, because they want to dominate, and they are prepared. I think the burn it all down concept that the MAGA people have, destroy it all, burn it all down. I think literally, I think they could actually end up doing that. Where is the hammer going to fall hardest? New York and LA are going to be the hardest ones hit, and then Chicago. DC, you know why they went to DC? Because now they have a standing army to protect both Trump and the executive. So JD Vance and all those, they have now a standing army to protect them. You get it? They don't want a January 6th, but the other way, that everybody that's not this little MAGA hardcore set, everybody that's not that sees through this and says, I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, they're underwater by, what is it, 20% in the last polls? So it's like, is it 2-to-1 ratio now? 2 people to 1 in the US object to what Trump's doing. I mean, they're incredibly unpopular. And I wonder why that is. Because they're incompetent, Signalgate, terrible economic decisions, all these overreaches, and look at the corruption, the amount of money they're raking in and paying themselves. It's rife. I mean, this is dictatorship 101 stuff. Make yourself rich, enrich yourself, rip it off everybody else. And the way they're destroying, like, basic rights, like the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, even the First Amendment. They're ripping into these. How long is it before they're gone? And yeah, what I was going to say was, the next thing they do, if they can do this thing with where they stop everybody, guess what? How long is it before they can say, no, we can bang down your door and grab you? Fourth Amendment, nah, we're going to override it. and we're going to say that they don't even need a warrant. They can just enter any building, any structure, anywhere. There's no such thing as a private space anymore. You don't need a warrant. You just, because we give you special magic powers, reasonable suspicion's all you need. So, Palantir pulls up certain people, says, these people were demonstrating. These people said comments where they criticized us. Well, that's reasonable suspicion. And then they start bashing down doors, right, left, and center. That's the next thing. They're going to take that away. I am flagging, saying I think their next step is that they totally remove, freedom of speech will be gone. The Fourth and Fifth Amendment, due process, habeas corpus, they're going to throw the lot out the window. They're going to get the Supreme Court to rule all of those are now superseded by whatever Trump or whoever the dictator is, whatever they want goes. They're essentially anointing a king, a dictator, a despot. That's what they're doing. I mean, that immunity thing, that was the first step. They're going to make Donald Trump or whoever supersedes him, probably J.D. Vance, into somebody with absolute power. And you are going to be property of J.D. Vance. Can you imagine that? Does that sound good? Would you like to be property of J.D. Vance and his friends like Peter Thiel and whoever else backed him? A little clique of one set of the billionaires. And by the way, the other billionaires, you watch, they'll go nail them too. They'll send the ICE people around to grab them. So Mark Zuckerberg, you better be building your own army or an escape route to a different country. Same with Jeff Bezos. You don't think they're going to come for you if it goes a dictatorship path? I would put money on it. I think they will go for you. Bill Gates, they'll definitely grab you. George Soros, oh boy, they will come for you in a big way. I hope it doesn't happen, but can you see how they do it? They will take whatever they want. They will imprison whoever they want. They will disappear whoever they want. They will do anything they want with no checks. All the checks are gone. That's where we are. Does that worry you, being property of J.D. Vance? Would you like a tattoo? J.D. Vance tattooed on you? Put you in chains? Because have you seen what ICE does? They put you in chains around the waist. Did you see that in, the Geo Group and BlackRock who owns them and all that? And, LaSalle and all those. They're for-profit prisons and they're all making billions of dollars. You don't think that they aren't going to work people in fields and stuff to do, basically slave labor. You don't think that's going to happen? Some suggest it's already happening. I can't prove it. I don't know, so I can't state for sure. But it's plausible, right? I mean, this is not new. Look at any right-wing outfit that had concentration camps and how they work. And this is real, and this is happening now. And the 10 million people in LA are just the start. This is the thin edge of the wedge. And for those who are cheering it, that shows that they are pro-dictatorship. Simple as that. People who oppose it support democracy and the Constitution. It's as simple as that. So I would say to you, choose life, choose freedom, choose democracy, choose justice, choose competence, choose fairness, choose to resist, choose to connect with everybody, choose to be outraged, choose to stand up against this, right? It's got to happen. Oh boy, time for me to go. Okay, food for thought, right? I've got a lot of ground to cover. I'm going to be doing the Dictatorship Bingo. This was just an opening teaser, I suppose. Please like and subscribe. I know everybody says that, but I'm just asking you for your help. And yeah, think about what you can do about this. For me to just go and say, here are the solutions without showing the whole game, I need to show you the game first and how it's played. So know who your friends are and who aren't, know who's fighting in what area and how they're fighting and how you can help, because you can. My favorite friends at the moment, and I joined the ACLU recently, and I've got to reach out and I'll say, hey, I will do whatever I can to support you guys in terms of publicizing and talking about what's going on, because they are heroes. But then everybody that's in that lawfare, that like the attorney generals that are fighting, that are in the blue states, and all of the organizations, I think, like Democracy Docket and any of those, and Norm Eisen's group, I keep forgetting, I've got to mention him, and they're doing fantastic work too. There's a whole lot of key outfits that are doing really great work, and they need recognition, they need funding and support. And that's because if we lose them, I think the game's over. I really do. And these executive orders that they're peppering and they're gearing up, I think they're going to do the high muzzle velocity trick that Steve Bannon described at one point. Scary times. And don't forget, the lawfare is already happening. ICE now threatens 10 million people in the Los Angeles region. Racial profiling, scapegoating, just like the Jews were treated in Germany in the 1930s. It's the same thing. And they're being sent to concentration camps. This is textbook. Really is. It's happening now. And then Boston, Chicago, Washington, D.C., they're all in for it too. Same treatment. And they're going to keep rolling. This isn't going to stop. This is the first taste of this. People need to stand up now. This is the time. This is it. You want to live in a dictatorship? Just put your hands up. If you don't, rise up. This is not the time to be sitting idle and sitting and watching. This is a time for action. And we need to coordinate better, and we need to understand. And that's my job here, is I'm going to show you guys what's happening, where the wars are being fought. I will drill down in total detail. Okay. Thanks again. Like and subscribe. I will be digging into this, but yeah, show me in the comments how you can help and what you're thinking, and any ideas that you think are relevant. It would be fantastic. Good to see you. I'll catch you in the next video, and yeah, stay vigilant.